Coming to you from the HagmannReport.com studio, located in the Keystone State, birthplace of a mighty nation, it's your host, Doug Hagmann.
This is the Hagmann Report, where truth can't be silenced. Websites, HagmannReportLive.com for audio, video, HagmannReport.com for print, HagmannStore.com for the greatest coffee you're going to drink, gourmet coffee. Proceeds go to what? They go to help fight boots on the ground, human and child sex trafficking. 3 different kinds. My go-to is Detective's Choice. That's right. And it's my dog on there, on the front, and me on the back. Detective's Choice, hyper-caffeinated, whole bean, ground, and K-Cup, and of course, Patriot and Revolution blends because, well, why? Well, look around. There you go. I'm still a member of AARP. They're probably going to sue me for saying this, but angry and armed, but ready patriot. That's the way I feel. Last night, I was watching events on Twitter unfold Louisville in the last couple of days, seeing all major cities across the United States, many in flames, seeing police getting battered and standing down, stepping down, being told to stand down. I saw one Twitter piece, and I retweeted it on my personal Twitter. Okay, this is of a couple in St. Pete sitting at a table in an outside restaurant. All right, and this cretin, this maggot from this group of people comes up and sits in the chair with this couple. All right, so look. I'm an alpha kind of guy. Can you tell? All right. The older woman, went around and kind of tipped his chair sideways. That's not, you don't tip it sideways. You tip it backward. Anyway, he was able to regain his footing or he stayed seated. He made some verbal threats against the couple. Now, I wrote on my personal Twitter account, I tweeted out that surgeons would still be picking up pieces of cartilage from that maggot's brain. All right, that's just me. All right, and I'm being nice about this. And somebody said, "Wow, that's a real Christian thing to say." Well, you know what? Yeah, here's the film right here, or here's the video. Folks, take a look at this. Okay, if I was that guy, this thing would have turned out totally differently. And I might not even be talking to you right now. I might be, probably behind bars or something. However, that little urchin there with that, I don't know, must be to keep his brain warm. I can't figure out any other reason for it. Threatening this couple and acting like he owns the joint, right? As if he's got this privilege to sit there. He looks black. I don't know. I can't tell. Is he black? Is he white? Is he Hispanic? Is he purple? I can't really, I can't tell what he is. I can tell you what he would be. And the others I wrote wouldn't fare as well as he would. All right, that's just me being pissed off, and again, after yesterday, folks, if you're offended at that language, then change the channel. All right, so you see this, right? You see what's going on? 8 years ago, February 26, 2012, Trayvon Martin. Does that name ring a bell? George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin? It should. Biggest hoax in America in terms of racial relations, in terms of race, the divide, but so relevant today. 8 years ago, and the Martin family attorney, Benjamin Crump, whatever, blabbing the lips all over TV, saying no justice, no peace. God, the same mantra of these maggots out there. With me is a guy that uncovered the Trayvon Martin hoax. Okay, and I'm not gonna look. I'm going to shut up most of this for most of this. If we can, I'll tell you what. I'm going to introduce him, and then I'm going to ask him if I can play the trailer if he wants me to, or part of it, or whatever. But I'm going to bring him on right now. His name is Joel Gilbert. The website is thetrayvonhoax.com. Thetrayvonhoax.com. One more time, thetrayvonhoax.com. There it is on your screen. Unmasking the witness fraud that divided America. And let me tell you something. Everything that we're seeing today can be traced back to really this in terms of its recency. Now, I've been an investigator for 34 years, okay? 34, 35, something like that. What Joel Gilbert did to uncover this hoax, I'm not sure I could do. His patience, his tenacity, and his nose for the truth. Now, he's got a book out, and folks, listen to me. Now, listen, pull up your chairs, okay? Come close. You're going to find, if you go to thetrayvonhoax.com, you're going to find on his website the trailer, but you're also going to find the documentary. I watched that twice. First time I watched it, I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. The second time I watched it, I took notes. Okay, hold that thought. You think you have the full story now, right? You got most of it. You got a lot of it. But there's a book. Oh, and I can hear people saying, oh, there's Hagmann selling books again. Let me tell you something. It reads like an investigative report / mystery. I love it. The book fills in so many more points. It gives you so much more information. Folks, I really, really, really think today, especially when you look at these Muppets out there, spouting off this mantra, no justice, no peace, justice for whoever, whatever the case might be, whatever the flavor is of the day. The book gets into the players that really are facilitating or kind of pushing this forward. So I don't want to take any more of his time because we got a lot to talk about. What you're seeing today is a direct result, in my view, of especially you can go back to Rodney King and such, but no. It's really Trayvon Martin 8 years ago, this past February, and boy, the hoax that was foisted on America. You don't know what I'm talking about? Joel Gilbert will explain it for you. And by the way, he's a marvelous singer. He's got a band. He's got so many other documentaries. This guy's a talented guy, but he's also an ace investigator and primo writer and film documentary maker. Here he is, Joel Gilbert. Thanks for coming on with me.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Doug.
I appreciate you coming. I'll tell you what, I know it's early where you're at, and from an undisclosed location, but anyway. What say you about all of this?
Well, look, okay, I'm out here in California, actually, and so here, of course, we have it's both a book and a documentary. Buy the book or documentary on Amazon to support me. The book is much more in-depth, as you said, and the documentary you can watch for free on YouTube. Just go to thetrayvonhoax.com, and you can link it up right there. You're welcome to play the trailer, but I'll give you a quick introduction, is that what I discovered is really what's happening today. It started with the Trayvon Martin case. People don't all remember, but the police exonerated George Zimmerman in a self-defense shooting of Trayvon Martin, who was bashing his head in the ground, broken nose, bleeding. Eyewitnesses, physical evidence, 911 calls. He was exonerated by the police. And the attorney for Trayvon Martin's family, Benjamin Crump, who today is the so-called go-to civil rights GoFundMe $10 million attorney that gets all the publicity over this, he decided, of course, they weren't happy with the justice system and how it came out. So what he did is he pressured Trayvon Martin's girlfriend, Brittany Diamond Eugene is her name, She didn't want to come forward and say anything. She was on the phone with him. They knew that. And he pressured her to say something, and she refused. Only 3 weeks later, under tremendous pressure and threats and coercion from Trayvon Martin's father, Tracy Martin, his mother, Sabrina Fulton, and his friends, Brittany Diamond Eugene did a phone interview with Crump. At only 16 years old, she simply repeated back to Crump everything he said. It was racial because he was wearing a hoodie. He wasn't doing nothing. He was just carrying some candy. She just repeated, 16-year-old under pressure, and she was openly led and coached in these statements. So Crump held a press conference and said, "We've got all the evidence now." He played some excerpts, audio excerpts of Brittany Diamond Eugene. She said she's 16 years old. It's Trayvon's girlfriend. They're in love. And then the police, Obama gets involved. He says, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. They're looking to stir up the black vote because it's an election year in Florida, and the economy's tanking, illegals coming in, taking jobs, 50% unemployment in urban America. So this was a political agenda that they were pursuing on a national level. And LeBron James got suckered into it. He's still suckered into every single race hoax that comes around. He starts complaining and saying he wants justice. And so the state of Florida was pressured by the mob, by the lynch mob, saying, we want justice. Benjamin Crump brought Al Sharpton down to Florida, and he introduced Al Sharpton by saying, we called up to New York City. We wanted someone with a track record. Now, Al Sharpton's track record was the Freddie's Fashion Mart massacre, the Crown Heights riots, and the Tawana Brawley race hoax. So that's who he said I needed to bring in. And 2 weeks later, the special prosecutor comes down to Miami to interview 16-year-old Diamond Eugene, first name Brittany, her house on Flamingo Drive. I show all the evidence. And they're sent away to another house, and that's when Rachel Jeantel appears. And she says, Diamond Eugene's my nickname. And there's no question that Crump knew about this and he was in on it. Trayvon's mother, Sabrina Fulton, who ran for Miami-Dade commissioner, just lost by only 300 votes. She was in on it. And there's no question, how could the prosecutors not have been in on it? So they got Rachel Jeantel to repeat some of these false media narratives of what happened. And only based on Rachel Jeantel's testimony in the deposition with the prosecutors, they arrested Zimmerman based on those statements, even though it contradicted everything from the police investigation. So what they did is they took this formula, which you still see today in every case. What happens is there's an investigation. Benjamin Crump comes in and says the investigation can't be trusted because the police themselves are racist. And I want a ton of money. And here's my GoFundMe. I want millions of dollars. And his political allies in the media and the Democrat Party call for massive changes of American society and changes to the Constitution. So this is how the lynch mob justice system was reborn in America from the Old West from hundreds of years ago, where simply if the mob has to get justice rather than follow the law. And I thought Daniel Cameron yesterday, if you saw that press conference, did a pretty good job saying there's no justice for that person. What we're doing is we get to the truth. We're interested in the truth of what really happened.
I was impressed, yeah.
Fortunately, they're pursuing this idea of mob justice. And of course, I show in the film, of course, Black Lives Matter was formed based on the Trayvon hoax, based on the idea that Zimmerman was acquitted because the justice system came back and worked. It followed the original police investigation and exonerated Zimmerman again. And Black Lives Matter is essentially the 1960s revolutionary Marxist organizations have re-emerged under the anti-racism mantra. It's founded by three Marxists. By the way, Black Lives Matter was an offshoot of Dream Defenders. Dream Defenders was an organization in Florida that was affiliated with the Palestinian terror group called the PFLP, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. It was founded by Palestinian Arabs who wanted to teach American youth intifada, to teach black youth how to loot and riot in every instance. And that's what Black Lives Matter was, kind of the rebranding. The three girls who founded Black Lives Matter, several of them are Islamic converts as well. And they're heavily Islamic oriented, radical Islamic oriented. You saw in that video clip, maybe you didn't notice that not the guy that sat down, but another guy walked up to this couple wearing a Jewish talis, a prayer shawl, and sounded a shofar. That was the ram's horn for the Jewish New Year in their face, as if to call them out for being Jewish. So there is an anti-Semitic current in the Black Lives Matter, and there's a profound misunderstanding in the media, celebrities, American society that Black Lives Matter is somehow a civil rights organization or it's the new NAACP. It's a revolutionary socialist organization that is using black people and using the idea of anti-racism to foment revolution in America and to overthrow the United States. And they simply use these incidences for mob justice to justify all this mayhem to achieve their political goals. I write more in the book about it that this has been going on for like 100 years. They were trying to, the Soviet Union, Comintern, Communist Party USA was trying to recruit black people in the 1930s to join their movement. Didn't work that well because black people were religious people. They weren't into atheism as was communism. And they were into things like love thy neighbor, not a war between the classes and a war between people of different color. The socialists tried to pick up on another movement in the 60s. They were anti-war, anti-Vietnam, anti-draft. Because Americans will never buy into this ridiculous socialist nonsense that the government is going to take over all your property and you're to give them all your money and it's going to control your life, they know Americans will never buy into this stuff. So they always have to put a different movement out front. So the anti-racism movement of the far left socialists really kind of started back in the mid-'80s. They tried again. Barack Obama was in on it. He was a front man brought into Chicago by Bill Ayers from the Weather Underground fame, terrorist emeritus, to head up the communities, to penetrate the black church groups, to have them join these socialist organizations. So they've been at it for about 20, 30 years, and now they've claimed the mantra of anti-racism. But when you think about it, everybody's anti-racist, so, oh yeah, I believe Black Lives Matter. But when you look at what their goals and their agenda are, it's globalism, transgenderism, and revolution. And I think my film, the Trayvon Hoax and the book, lay out the whole story and really where it all started in the modern kind of era with the hoax of the Trayvon Martin case, where they substituted a fake witness. Rachel Jeantel was not Trayvon Martin's girlfriend. She wasn't on the phone with him, and a lot of people knew about it. And they should all be going to jail for witness tampering and other crimes. All the people that were involved in it remains to be seen. But I've presented all the evidence, and none of this would be happening today. Of course, it's been about a year since this film came out. I presented it at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and most of the conservative, even conservative, of course, the mainstream media didn't want to hear about this, that this whole thing, this whole race baiting and racial division is based on a big hoax. They didn't want to hear that, but even the conservative media, I didn't get calls from, Hannity or, Tucker, or even Breitbart rejected it. They said, some of them were open about it. They said, we're too afraid to touch this because we might get slammed on social media. We might get accused of being racist. Some of them were just said, oh, I got a new book coming out, or I'm too busy, it's old news. I said, no, the Democrat Party is going to pivot back to the Trayvon hoax for 2020 to manipulate black voters and divide the country. They always do it. Every talking head you can think of, I won't name names, but everyone you can think of that's been on Fox News, black and white, they were all afraid to touch it. And that was, very disappointing, because had they really publicized this, I think Crump would not still be a national figure today.
To me, watching you in the documentary and then reading it, folks, it's so important to get the book as well. All right. It's so important to get the book, because the backstory that Mr. Gilbert just explained is, and the DVD, because you need to support his investigation. I don't know how much it cost you. I don't know how much that investigation cost you, but out of your pocket, but it had to be a ton of money, because I was tired after watching you fly cross country and dig into, go through the phone records. In fact, we should, if you don't mind, may we play the trailer and work from that, okay? Folks,
okay.
Please pay attention to this. This is the trailer. This is just a smidge. It shouldn't even whet your appetite, except give you an idea of what Joel Gilbert's investigation entailed. Go ahead.
My message is to the parents of Trayvon Martin. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
The shooting death of Trayvon Martin was ground zero for racial division in America.
Trayvon Martin was killed for wearing a hoodie, quite frankly.
I decided to produce a film on how the case affects American politics to this day. It had started as a self-defense case, but then, out of the blue, they found Trayvon's girlfriend.
She is a minor child.
This phone witness led to the most racially divisive trial since O.J. The girlfriend had written Trayvon's mother a letter.
I put it in a box.
Did you sign it at the bottom?
Yes.
What name did you use?
Diamond Eugene.
My investigation started with Trayvon's 750-page cell phone records. I made a shocking discovery.
Check that
Trayvon
out.
did have a girlfriend named Diamond Eugene, but she wasn't the witness at the trial. To understand what really happened, I knew I had to find the real Diamond. My research took me to the back alleys of Little Haiti.
Maybe they can help me find Diamond.
Yeah, maybe they will help.
To the high schools of Miami Gardens. To Florida's capital city of Tallahassee. And finally, to Sanford, Florida, where I got to know George Zimmerman. For the first time, he revealed Trayvon's last words.
I heard him say, "Tell Mama Alicia I'm sorry."
Then I found a tape where Rachel confessed to prosecutors.
Real guilty.
Why do you feel real guilty?
I ain't know about it. I ain't know about it.
And then, finally, I found Trayvon's real girlfriend, Diamond Eugene. I was then able to reconstruct the shocking story of what really happened the month before and after the shooting. I used forensic handwriting analysis and even DNA to confirm what I had uncovered. That Diamond was switched for a fake witness in a murder trial in the most stunning hoax in American judicial history, a hoax whose consequences have been tragic beyond anyone's imagination. In telling this story, my hope is to show how politicians and the media have pulled us apart when our shared aspirations have always been to come together as one nation.
Yeah, say it, folks. Buy the DVD, buy the book. Go to the TrayvonHoax.com and seriously, do yourself a big favor. Purchase them both. And if you have to, I would say this, since the video is free on YouTube for now, do yourself a favor, but buy the book, because the book fills in so much of the backstory that Mr. Gilbert had said. But did you see that stack of phone records? Okay, now I've gone through those. And believe me, as an investigator, that is no easy task. And I've traveled like he has. Again, no easy task, talking to witnesses. But the bottom line here, did you catch what happened here? They swapped witnesses, and everyone knew it, and it was a big lie. And here we are today. Did I do okay with that, Joel?
Yeah, pretty good. And there's more to come out. George Zimmerman did file a lawsuit that's in the state of Florida right now, based on my findings, that he's charging Benjamin Crump, Sabrina Fulton, Trayvon's parents, Father Tracy Martin, Brittany Diamond Eugene, Rachel Gentile, all of them with a civil conspiracy, witness tampering, fraud, you name it. And it's going to, I think, come out in the trial. There's more to know. For example, the phone records of Diamond Eugene showed that she was calling Chase Bank at 16 years old, repeatedly right after she was recruited to make these statements to Crump. And then Crump was calling her the next day. So I wouldn't be surprised if we find out there were payoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out Sabrina Fulton was even more deeply involved. She definitely knew about it. This is Trayvon's mother, who's the cause celeb of the Mothers of the Movement, who shows up at all the Democrat Party events. Sabrina Fulton's been race baiting for 6 years. She became a race hustler herself. She's been running around the country earning speaking fees. She got a huge settlement from the Homeowners Association. She signed book and movie deals. And she runs around to college campuses saying, I'm quoting, "People hate you so much because of the color of your skin. They want to kill you." This is what the message that she's been spreading around. And she was in on it. She knows it was a hoax, but she's trying to make a career like Crump out of this. And I can tell you the biggest fans of my movie, you can look at, there's over 4,000 or 5,000 comments on YouTube, and the emails I get, the biggest fans are black teenagers and black youth. And they email me and say, "Oh my God, I was scared to go out of my house. They made me think that I was going to be shot down because people didn't like my skin color." This one young lady wrote me, she said, "I have a black son and I grew up on this Trayvon Martin stuff, and I was afraid for him to grow up in America." She said, thank you, we got played." So the black people suffered the most from all this nonsense, where it led directly to that Ferguson, Missouri. Of course, Crump was in on that. And it's called the Ferguson Effect, where the police withdraw from proactive policing. It used to be they drive by, see a guy with a gun or dealing drugs, and they stop him and get the crime off the street. Now they just keep driving. So the homicides have gone up about 33% because of all of this, and it continues to just make black youth suffer. I think all these people have blood on their hands, and it's not fathomable that just because Trayvon Martin died in a tragic incident, that thousands of more black youth have to die for nothing. And they're still playing this out today. It's the same people, the same formula. It's Benjamin Crump. It's Al Sharpton's in on it. They come up with a false narrative. The media runs with it. For example, we thought until the other day, we pretty much thought that Breonna Taylor was sleeping in her bed. The police showed up, didn't knock on the door, burst in and shot her dead in cold blood.
Correct.
Now we find out everything we were told is a lie. So all these cases, we find out like about a year later, or when it goes to court, that everything we were told at the get-go was a lie. But still, we have people like LeBron James tweeting out, we can't go out of our house without being shot to death. The celebrities get sucked into it. The media is in on it. And it's just a terrible tragedy, ultimately for black America and for the cause of civil rights. Glenn Lurie, he's a black professor at Brown University. He did a nice analysis of my film. He said, we cannot build the civil rights movement on ruses and hoaxes. And that's what's being done.
What I got from your book, by the way, is what you said earlier about the roots of Black Lives Matter. Of course, the 2013 official formation by Patrice Cullors, Tometi, and Garza, of course. That's obviously the direct result of the front of the socialist movement, but of course in response to Trayvon Martin. But the depth at which you address what is really pushing this movement, to me, it just fit everything together. Because I've interviewed people like Diana West, talking about the communist socialist infiltration. Of course, I've read books by M. Stanton Evans and understand the history behind this. But you really put this together in such a way where, okay, when I do see the riots, the cities burning, now you have connected the more current dots and overlapped the racial component into the socialist communist infiltration into American society, if that makes sense. It's just amazing. So what we're seeing, we as we see cities burn, we're being played. And by the way, I am guilty for not having you on earlier. I'll tell you what, I should have had you on. I should have known about this. And in fact,
I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you on that. Look, a lot of people missed it. A lot of people felt they were afraid of it. They said, "Oh, well, we better not touch anything to do with race. We'll be excoriated on social media. We'll be attacked by the left. We're just too afraid to address something that has any racial component, let alone the mother of all, racial incidences with Trayvon Martin. But the lack of a media that wasn't afraid and didn't have a little better ability to look forward and backward at the same time, I think is the only reason that Ben Crump is not disbarred and charged or imprisoned from witness tampering. I think that's the only reason. Look, I interviewed in one of my films called "There's No Place Like Utopia." I interviewed an ex-KGB agent defector named Konstantin Preobrazhensky, and he told me that the communists in Russia and in the history and even currently, they viewed American blacks as the raw material for revolution. That was his quote, the raw material for revolution. So they've always targeted American blacks in history to use them, to get them upset about racism and economic differences, to marshal their anger for votes and for political power. And the Democrat Party has rested their entire program on that. And these race hoaxes are things that they just get behind over and over again. And it's absurd. It's tragic. I mean, I grew up in Tennessee in the 80s, and I never heard the N-word. I have black friends, black kids and white kids were all together. Today, up to this day, we're friends. So the idea that they present in the media that suddenly 40 years later, all of a sudden America became racist. It's so racist you can't even see it. That's how racist it is. It's in the system. Oh, well, where is it? Well, Obama said it's in our DNA. Oh, okay. How do we find it? So that's these race hustlers with a black president. They ran out of racial incidences to fuel this race-based narrative. And the Democrat Party needed a race-based narrative to keep this huge voting bloc. And the absurdity of it is beyond comprehension, that you can have somebody killed in an accident. Breonna Taylor, I don't know how much of an accident it was. We don't know if her boyfriend used her as a human shield. Why is she the only one that got hit standing next to him? So accidents happen. I can tell you that every day in America, you'll have people on drugs, people on meth, people on PCP, and they commit a crime. They attack somebody. That person calls the police, come rescue me. There's some crazy guy here stealing or trying to hit me with a knife or shoot me. The police come, and that guy might be on probation and on drugs, and the police job is to save the person that's being attacked. Sometimes, most of the time, the criminal will go along quietly. Sometimes they say, I don't want to go back to jail. They decide I'm going to fight the police. Sometimes the police get shot and killed. Sometimes the police kill a person. It's very, very tragic. But the idea that we don't want policing, when they say defund police,
right,
that's a nice word. Eliminate police. They don't want any police. They don't want any prisons. It's a reimagining of human society. It's a reimagination. And this reimagination is supposed to lead to this perfect utopian world with them in charge as the gods of this utopia. And they're trying to use black Americans to achieve this total nonsense. And only the people suffering most are black Americans. And I think if you look at some of the comments on the YouTube film for the Trayvon hoax, you'll certainly see that bears out.
Yeah, I believe that right now. I looking at things, I believe that the most impacted victims of what's taking place are the black people. I'm not going to call them African Americans; they're black people here in America, because as you pointed out, this false narrative has been created, and now there are, and maybe you can help me with this too. You look at these Black Lives Matter protests, the violent protests that we see. I don't see I would say the majority of the people there are white people.
Yeah, these are white. These are the same anarchists that when Trump was elected, they went out and rioted. About 2 million people nationwide. They have these anarchist, revolutionary, communist organizations that are very small all over the country, and they occasionally will activate when they find a certain cause. The cause of the day is called racial scapegoating. Racial scapegoating. And that's what George Zimmerman was. He was a racial scapegoat for Sabrina Fulton and the Martin family. Trayvon, as I point out in the film, he was not a bad kid. He was a normal kid, 16, 17 years old. He had no father in the home. He lost his stepmother, Alicia Stanley. We show for the first time in the film, George Zimmerman told me Trayvon Martin's final words to him were, "Please tell Mama Alicia I'm sorry." Mama Alicia was Alicia Stanley, was Trayvon's stepmother. He lived there for 16 years, and he had to leave her home and go back and live with Sabrina Fulton because his father left his stepmother. So Trayvon was stuck moving to Sabrina's house, no father, no supervision. He got into drugs, gangs, heavy marijuana use, dealing guns. And every time he got in a fight and suspended from school, Sabrina Fulton would kick him out on the street. Instead of locking him down and grounding him and trying to spend time with him, she would kick him out of the house. So he's 200 miles away, and he gets into another fight. So for Sabrina Fulton and the Martin family, Zimmerman was the racial scapegoat for their parenting deficiencies and for the failures of the socioeconomic conditions that they experienced. The fact that the father left the home twice. Trayvon lost his mother twice. And what we see is the same thing nationally. All the failures of the Democrat policies and the Democrat education policies in urban America, Detroit, Chicago, Baltimore, all these places where there's terrible education, drug culture, single mothers, crime. Instead of saying, okay, our policies don't work, all this nonsense, driving businesses out, raising taxes, teachers' unions with terrible education, let's try something else. Instead, they say, oh, no, we got a racial scapegoat. The racial scapegoat, it's America. It's America. Where's the racism? Oh, it's the system. Well, where is it in the system? Oh, it's in your DNA. Or you don't even know you have it. Well, how do I know I have it? Well, we'll teach you some critical race theory so you can figure it out. So they took that microcosm of George Zimmerman being a racial scapegoat for the Martin family to making America the racial scapegoat for failed Democrat Party policies.
Very well stated, and sadly, very well stated. Okay. What can we do? To the people watching and listening, look, I feel helpless, all right? And honestly, I don't, for as much as I talk and say, you know what, I'm not going to put up with this nonsense, and I'm not. I'm not going to be victimized by these mobs they're Marxist mobs. So I'm not going to be victimized, nor will I allow my family to be victimized. And I'm going to fight back. But wait a second. Before fighting back, there's got to be something else that we could do, maybe to diffuse the situation as it is today. I mean, do we need to? What would you suggest? I mean, right now, I seriously, I feel like calling up, if I could, Sean Hannity and say, hey, or Tucker Carlson and say, hey, you got to talk to Joel Gilbert and you got to get him on. I mean, short of that, what can we do?
Look, I agree. Look, I made this film. I thought it was a huge revelation that could help heal the nation. When Sabrina Fulton was running for office, she did some virtual town halls, and I managed to get in on one, and I got to ask a question to Sabrina Fulton. And I said to her, Ms. Fulton, why haven't you forgiven George Zimmerman? Don't you think the country could heal if you did so? And I said, Jesus, the Bible says that the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. Sabrina, isn't that what Jesus would do? And while I was talking, she was smirking and looking away and laughing. And then she went into about a 3-minute speech about how she won't forgive. And I think what I got from that in reality is she can't forgive herself for kicking Trayvon out every time he got in a fight instead of grounding him and working with him. And so she needs that racial scapegoat of George Zimmerman so that she doesn't have to deal with her own failings and her own deficiencies. But think of the power Sabrina Fulton had years ago. Religious woman goes to church, talks about, thank you, Lord, thank you, Jesus. She says all those religious things, but she could have just forgiven Zimmerman and said, my son was very troubled. He was into guns and drugs and fighting, and I kicked him out, and he attacked this person. I don't want anyone else to be hurt because of this. But she wouldn't do it. That's a tremendous amount of power she had. Instead, she launched a career as a race hustler. And she goes to churches and she says, I know and believe that God is using me. And in my film, I'd say, no, I don't think it's God. And I quote from Proverbs. I actually quote from Proverbs. It's the epigram in the book.
Yep.
Because what she does is she reads Proverbs at her events. She reads Proverbs like 1 through 15. She doesn't continue when she gets to 16. So 16 is, for the Lord hates a heart who devises wicked plans, a false witness who breathes out lies, and who sows discord among brothers. And that's what the Martin family did, and that's what Crump does every day. He sows discord among brothers. Americans are all brothers. Black and white, we're all brothers under a nation of liberty and a constitutional republic that we have so many opportunities to achieve. And these people are choosing racial mayhem for their own individual personal gain and allying with their media and political partners to take political power. So this is the tragedy of the moment. And I think by shedding light on it, whether it's Hannity or Tucker or anybody else, I mean, I think I proved that these people all were involved in witness tampering, were involved in suborning perjury, were perjuring themselves in court. And the justice system, I think it needs to catch up with them and expose that this original race hoax really created a tragic formula that's still being followed to this day. It was also kind of the advent of the modern era of fake news, where the media would just make up stuff and didn't care about the facts. I mean, I walked into the Florida State Archives and just got all the records, public records. Anybody could have done that. And you could just see right away, that's not Trayvon's girlfriend. There's a different girl. And there's her photos. In the phone records, they're actually texting photos back and forth. And there's Diamond Eugene. It's not Rachel Gentile. So a lot of people, I think, were in on it. And I think justice needs to catch up to all these characters, including Benjamin Crump and Trayvon's mother and father, anybody who was in on, including the prosecutors. And I think people will start to see, that we didn't need all this ridiculous for no reason.
One thing that when I was watching the documentary, how did the prosecutors make that okay?
The prosecutors, I mean, in the first interview with Rachel Gentile, they keep asking her questions, and they know the answers are wrong. And they keep asking over and over until she eventually says something a little bit right. They said, how many times did you text with Trayvon that day? She says, 1. And it's actually 32 times. They had the phone records just like me. And they kept saying, well, how many times did you text in the hour before he died? She said, 1. And they said, they just moved on to the next question. Now, at the end of that interview, you played it in the trailer, but 6 times at the end of the interview, she told the prosecutor, I feel guilty. I feel real guilty. I feel real guilty. 6 times. He kept saying, why do you feel so guilty? She says 3 times. She yells at him, I know about it. I know about it. And they use her testimony anyway, even though it contradicted all the evidence and all the eyewitnesses. After that, the prosecution withheld her identity from the defense until just before the trial. They withheld the cell phone records until just before the trial. They did everything they could to hide as much evidence as possible so the prosecution wouldn't have time to figure out that this was a fake witness.
Wow. Man, that is amazing. Folks, my guest is such a gracious guy, but I'm going to tell you something. You don't want him on your butt. Trayvon Hoax. Go ahead and hold that up again, because I love that book. I've got the e-version. My copy's coming here shortly. Trayvon. Okay, so there's a DVD in the book. You got to get the book because, man, it fills in some good blanks, and of course the DVD. But it tells you why where we're at today. And again, I would not want you on my trail. Okay, people say that about me, but man,
Trayvon's a real girlfriend, by the way.
Okay.
You can tell why he fell for her.
Yep.
And I got a lot of pictures in the book, and you can certainly see it. She was like this, really hot girl that he was in love with. And, Rachel Gentile was 120 pounds heavier and 2 years older than him. And her story kept changing. Her name kept changing. Her age was changing. All the facts changed. And looking back, when you see the film, you'll say, oh, my God, how come everybody didn't just jump on this. It's because they had an agenda, a political agenda. They wanted to get Obama reelected. They wanted to turn out the black vote, manipulate the black voters who were not really that impressed with Obama's performance in office. Like I said, 50% unemployment in urban America, illegals taking over jobs. In my film, There's No Place Like Utopia, I went to Chicago and Newark and Detroit. I talked to a lot of black Americans, and they're like conservatives. They said, we don't want illegals coming in. We don't want legalized marijuana. We want more police, you know? But they sucked them in with the skin color. Well, he's biracial, he's black, so you would think he has your interests at heart, but he never did. He never did anything for black Americans. He did everything for this radical socialist agenda, which I showed the basis of in a prior film called Dreams from My Real Father.
Oh, yes.
About his real background in radical revolutionary politics based on his mentor, and who I believe was his real father, Frank Marshall Davis.
A Story of Reds in Deception. By the way, that's a great film. That's a great video film documentary. It's fantastic. Dreams from My Real Father. And folks, bookmark this website. It'll be in the program description box. It is Highway 61 ENT for entertainment, highway61ent.com. There it is right there on your screen. Bookmark that. It'll be in the program description box because there's a variety of films there, documentaries that you can take a look at, all fantastic. And especially, again, not just the Trayvon hoax, but There's No Place Like Utopia. And a friend, an author, has a book about the utopian, communist utopia or socialist utopia here in America. And I'll tell you what, all of this fits together. You really put the pieces together. But what can we do now, aside from really supporting your efforts, because you've done such a great job? What would you recommend Americans do given the situation that we see playing out on the streets today? What would you recommend?
Look, the deficit is information. That people who control the media, they just had on for an hour and a half on Fox News and CNN screaming, no justice, no peace. We want justice for Breonna Taylor, ignoring the entire system. So the inability to just share basic information in the main airwaves, I think, is the main dilemma that we lack an ability to do that. Even the conservative media, there's the official conservative media like Fox News. I've been booked on Fox News 3 times, including, I was booked on Jesse Waters to go on with the Trayvon hoax. They flew me to New York. I provided all these clips, and the day of the taping, they called and said, we're a little too busy. We can't have you on. So I think they might have flagged me or flagged this project as a little too scary for them to handle. And that's always been the case. My movie about Obama's background, Roger Ailes was shown the movie in his office before it came out, and he told my friend, this is incredible, but we can't touch this. So the deficit of the ability to share information is the biggest obstacle. So I guess I just recommend everybody share the link to my film, share with as many people as possible, and just don't be afraid to share it and talk about it. Certainly Zimmerman's lawsuit has a chance. Ironically, George Zimmerman has a chance of anybody, the one guy that could save America, because if he can get all these people in court, Benjamin Crump, Brittany Diamond Eugene, Rachel Gentile, he could probably get the truth. He's got all the truth. I don't think they're going to be able to lie too much more and break this whole thing wide open. The media will be forced to cover it.
Do you think that'll happen?
I think there's a good chance. It's in the Florida courts. He got a new attorney and filed an amended complaint. The answers are due, I think, next Wednesday. And after that, I think he's looking to do discovery and depositions. So if that happens, I think the media won't be able to stay away. Even Hannity might be forced to cover it as much as he's afraid, or Fox News is afraid to deal with this. But had they dealt with it, had they covered this a year ago, I was at the National Press Club. I laid out the whole case. And the biggest failure probably is, we know the mainstream won't cover it, but had the conservative media been brave enough to cover it, and some of the great talking heads that we see on TV every day, I'll name one. I always admired Larry Elder. I liked his show.
Yeah.
And I talked to him personally about it. As soon as I started talking about this and said, you might want to take a look at this. You spent a lot of time talking about the Trayvon Martin case, that Rachel Jeantel was a fraud. He got in big arguments with Piers Morgan. Take a look at this. He never would talk to me again. Never responded. Don't want anything to do with me. So that's been pretty much the fear factor of even the people that we think in the conservative world that will want to look at the truth and help spread and expose what really happened. And unfortunately, because they didn't, Benjamin Crump is still out there playing the Trayvon hoax on America.
Yeah, it was interesting before airtime this morning. We spoke, and you said, "Yeah, Benjamin Crump's out there on the airwaves, spreading the same things, the same mantra, stoking the fires, essentially, literally, and how this all could not. I mean, how we could have, looking at this, how we could have stopped this just by speaking up and by having." Joel Gilbert's investigative work product, his documentary, his book, people have to read it and share it. And hey, you've got to approach this, look at it, and understand what's going on here. And if people who really care about the United States do this, then you could stop what's going on, or we wouldn't. Hey, maybe what's going on now wouldn't be going on had this seen the light of day in that venue at that time. Man, that's wow. I want to thank you personally, from the bottom of my heart, for being. You're a hero. I mean, really, you really are. And I don't use that. That's not false flattery. That's you did a lot of work to really uncover what was really going on, and that's not easy, man.
It's something that had to be done. I always like to say, America is worth it. We have to tell the truth and expose these charlatans who are trying to divide the country and hurt people with lies and false narratives. That black people are being hunted down in the streets by armed white men. You can't leave your house. All this nonsense. When I point out, as was for Trayvon, his room was not armed white men in the streets. It was a lack of a strong father in the home to guide him away from drugs, gun dealing, and gangs. And as long as people try to escape reality, we're going to have horrible consequences like we see playing out now every day.
And in your book, it's interesting how you point out about the nexus of the attack on the nuclear family by the socialist communist construct to and then mask it through this racial cause, supposedly noble racial cause. It really is so necessary for you to read the book, because it really puts connects some dots. And again, available on ebook, or I like the hard copy. I'm waiting on. I've got the ebook, but I'm waiting on the hard copy. So we got about 30 seconds left. Anything that we haven't covered? About 45 seconds. Anything we haven't covered that you want to hit?
Well, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it all. I asked everyone, go to the TrayvonHoax.com and watch the trailer right there, and links you right up to watch the documentary for free. Please go over and still buy the DVD, share it with somebody, buy the book, and help spread it around, because this absurd false narrative that the media is running with, they're using to achieve political power. And what they're going to do with that political power is not help Americans and not help black people. It's a whole different agenda that I think I reveal in this documentary, in this book. And that agenda has nothing to do with anything to do with American values. It has to do with the agenda of radical 60s revolutionary socialists who have a vision of destruction of America and then rebuilding this perfect world. And we know from history that these experiments in reimagining humanity always end up in mass destruction.
Mass death, mass destruction. Nothing good comes from it. And absolutely. Joel Gilbert, thank you so very much. I so appreciate you taking your time, because I know you're a busy guy. I so appreciate you coming on. And I'm going to be urging everyone to support your work, and, of course, purchasing the Trayvon Hoax book, DVD, and other videos, too. I've got a couple couple of favorites myself, including There's No Place Like Utopia, but we'll save that for another day. Thank you so very much. Appreciate you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Right. Folks, that was Joel Gilbert. My goodness. Did you know that? Did you guys know all of that? That they used a fake witness? Do you remember Jack Cashel was here? He was saying, he was talking about that, right? All right. I'm telling you, this will blow your mind when you get into it. And Joel Gilbert, just watching him go through the steps, each step methodically, tirelessly. I'm telling you, wow. It took me back to when I was doing that type of stuff, every single day. I'm thinking, my goodness, he and then to get a stack of phone records. Did you see that? Like, Manhattan phone book. Kids don't know what those are today, but there it is. All right, folks. Hagmann Report. You're listening to the Hagmann Report, where truth can't be silenced. In fact, truth won't be silenced. I want to thank you so much for your graciousness, your gratuity, thank you for your support, and certainly thank you for your prayers. Gonna be right back. Stay right where you're at.